What is up, people? Jean Carlos here with the Total Body Training Podcast, where I help people get lean, gain muscle, and build confidence. And today we have two special guests. Ladies, you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
My name is Lisa Holloway.
And I'm Shawn Russell.
And the reason I'm having these two awesome ladies on the show today is because we're going to be talking a little bit about weight loss surgery and their own personal experience with weight loss surgery, the weight that they've lost, why they chose to do that, maybe some of the trials that people should consider, or some of the things that could come up when you have weight loss surgery and how it's affected their lives. But before we get started, I just want to say that today's episode is brought to you by coffee. I love coffee, so that's why today's episode is brought to you by coffee. Ladies, how do you like to have your coffee? Tell me what you like in your coffee. You know, if you're not a coffee person, maybe you're a tea person, you can tell me that. Go. Lisa.
I just like regular coffee.
The mic? Yeah.
I just like regular coffee with cream and sugar.
Okay.
Basic.
Okay.
I guess hazelnut creamer and lots of sweet and low.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Nice and simple. Okay. Yeah, no, it's fine. You'll just pass it back and forth. We only have two mics here. This isn't Oprah. We don't have like clip-on mics, anything fancy. It's just two mics and three people. So we're making it work. Okay. We're on a budget, y'all. All right. So, ladies, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And, I'm just going to kind of ask you to, starting with you first, which surgery did you have? So we can get that out of the way. Go ahead.
I had the gastric sleeve.
Okay.
And I had also had the gastric sleeve as well.
Okay. All right. And, my first question is, how much weight have you lost so far doing that?
65 pounds.
So you've lost 65 pounds so far?
Yes.
All right. And for yourself?
I've lost 105 pounds.
That's 105 pounds. That's awesome. That's really good. It's hard to lose that amount of weight. Trust me, I know, because I've been helping people lose weight since 2014. So it can be really tricky. And then I guess my next question is how has that impacted your life? How has it changed the way that you feel about yourself and the way that people look at you?
I know that sometimes I still see myself at the same weight. I get shocked by how I look, or attention, or people saying things, you look so great, and it's like, sometimes I feel like I look the same, and I'll look in the mirror and I'm like, but then I'll change my clothes and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm wearing a medium t-shirt where a year ago I was in a 2 and 3X, and I mean, my jeans are now, single digits, and whereas a year ago I was wearing an 18-20. So I can see it, but sometimes I don't think it. That's the biggest change for me about how I feel.
Yeah, and I can see how that would be the case. How long did it take you to lose that weight? How long ago was this surgery?
I had my surgery actually a year ago, the end of March. It was like March. Oh no, about the beginning of March, I guess. So it was almost exactly a year ago. I had a lot of issues at the beginning too, because when I started, I was very strict. I was eating 500 to 600 calories a day. I was not eating any carbs, and I ended up in the hospital within the first 2 months with, I was malnourished and in ketoacidosis. So I was really sick and in the ICU for quite a few days. And that happened for quite a few months until my PCP told me, no, you need to come off the ketogenic, you need to eat some carbs and quit being so restrictive and eat more calories. And that was, when they told me how many calories to eat, I was laughing at them, because for the last 20 years, I'm told you need to stay at 1,200 to 1,500 calories. And they're like, no, you need to eat 2,000 calories a day. I was like, that's not happening. I still have a hard time with that.
So with the sleeve, you're eating 2,000 calories a day?
No, I don't. I'm at about 1,200 maybe, but some days I may eat 8. It just depends. So if I eat, my 1,200 days are when I'm going, keto, high fat, high protein. That's when I have my higher calories. But on my days that I'm kind of like, okay, I'm gonna have a breakfast taco. I might have the breakfast taco in the morning, or quesadilla or something, and so I will have less calories because I know inside my mind that I ate too many carbs this morning. So that's how I try and balance it out.
So yeah, I want to kind of come back to that in just a second. Something you said about that, Lisa. You were saying, back to the original question, because that's definitely something. No. By all means, like, yeah, this is just conversational. Like, we're just friends hanging out and talking. So there's no sorries. Like, yeah, this isn't Oprah, yeah, or Dr. Oz or something. Yeah, I wish it was Oprah or Dr. Oz. I wish I had that money. All right, so but I don't. I'm a modest person. Okay, all right. So Lisa, you said you've lost about how many pounds?
105.
And what has that done for you, like losing that weight?
To me, it's made just simple movement better. I had issues like I could barely tie my own shoes. I had to pre-tie them and then slide my feet in my shoes because I couldn't physically bend down to tie my shoes. Going upstairs, out of breath, like I ran a marathon. Just simple everyday things. Sweeping the floor, I can sweep the floor now without losing breath. I'm able to do things that I haven't been able to do. Like the other week I did a sit-up and I was so proud. I'm like, I haven't done sit-ups in years, but it has bettered my life since I've had surgery, and it's a lot better. I have a lot more confidence in myself.
Yeah. I mean, losing any amount of weight will definitely help with that, and losing as much weight as you both have would definitely lead to like a boost in confidence, and like hearing that from other people. I've even heard that when people lose that much weight, it almost shocks them how much more people pay attention to them or talk to them. Has that been your experience? Do you feel like you've been treated differently, having lost weight, Lisa?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
I have a really good circle of people in my life that have always been supportive of me, whether I was 315 pounds or 210. It's just, they've always been supportive of me. But it's like the people on the street, like, oh, wow, you look very nice in that dress. I'm like, oh, well, thank you. And I'm like, okay. It's kind of shocking sometimes,
Yeah. And what about for yourself?
My big one, my husband, like when at the beginning of the surgery, he's always been supportive of it. And then when it was a couple weeks ago, about maybe 2 months ago, I had mentioned that I just don't feel like I looked that much different, or not. And he sent me a picture of me from the summer before, and I looked at it and I almost cried, and I showed everybody at work. I was like, oh my God, look at that, this was me. And so that was a big deal to me, and it made me laugh too when my son gave me a hug. Mom, I can wrap my arms around you. And I was like, okay, that made me cry a little bit. So it's those things, being told by people that you don't know. Also, I was at a conference, and and this woman told me that I looked, very nice. That I and I had before I dressed very frumpy. I would wear, baggy skirts and baggy shirts over it, and I was wearing black leggings with a long shirt, and it was nice for, she was telling me these things, and I was like, well, okay. And of course I'm like, I don't know what to say about that, but thanks. So.
Yeah. Something I've heard is that when people do, and I've had more to love in my life. Like, I've been overweight, but I've never been obese, right? And so, that's the whole different level of like the way that people treat you and things like that. Sometimes people aren't, from what I understand, for somebody who's obese, sometimes people just aren't as nice to you, right? They're not as friendly. They don't give you as many compliments, things like that. So it can be a little bit shocking, from what I understand, for people to receive those kinds of compliments if they've never really had them in their life, at least from what I've heard. Would you say that's been the case for you? A little surprising to have that? Yeah.
And it's funny because before, I didn't realize how many times people would say, hey, oh, that makes you look so much thinner. When what they're saying was, you don't look as fat in that outfit as you did before. Yeah. And you start looking at the way people give you compliments or whatever, and you look back on it. It's kind of like that the lady that comes in, oh, your makeup looks great today. It's like, well, I look like crap every other day. So you start looking at it from a different perspective now. Yeah. Now I look at it as, people were being nice, or but you still would get the looks when you would go back up to the buffet, the Chinese buffet, for the second time. People were like,
yeah.
you sure can eat a lot. I was like, really? It's and little comments that people would say that I guess they never, like, are you sure you should eat that? Well, probably not, but it's good, and it didn't matter then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What about you, Lisa?
What
about for you?
Yeah, certain, jobs that I've had, I worked in a factory, and, I was big. I had to walk almost a mile to my line just to put Pampers in a box, and they were like, she's not going to make it, maybe you need to work on a line farther down, or maybe you should choose another job. And I'm like, okay, I need to work. So, but people do treat you a little bit different once you lose the weight. I'm not sure why people do that. I don't think they really know they're doing it sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't think they realize it, but the same token, like, if you go to an amusement park and certain rides you can't get on because the strap didn't fit you, or, you want to get on something, people looking at you like, she shouldn't be on that ride. And when I had the surgery and I lost the weight and I went to Florida, I made sure I went on that ride, and I almost cried when I got on it because I could fasten the belt around me, and all the ladies in my women's group were clapping, and everybody's looking at us like, why are they clapping? Because they knew where I came from, where I couldn't fit in that seat. So, yeah, just transitioning from being overweight into you starting to lose weight. Sometimes you can't really, accept it a little bit. You be like, wow, I don't feel different, but I know that I am different just in weight-wise.
Yeah, I understand. I hadn't even thought about the potential for, like, just not fitting in certain places, like going on flights.
Yeah, I had to buy 2 seats.
You did? You had to buy?
I didn't. A friend of mine, she was, she's more, she was bigger than I was, and she had to buy 2 seats.
Yeah. So you have to pay twice as much, right?
And it's not just that. It's because it was the summer before I had my surgery. I had flown out to Ohio with my son and my husband, and my son is, he's thin, and my husband is thinner also, and I'm sitting there, 235 pounds, filling up the middle seat, and it's like, oh, I have to get up, to go to the bathroom or whatever. And then when I walked down the aisle, I'm like rubbing against the seats. In October, I went to Alabama, and I sat down in the seat. When I put the seatbelt on the first time, it was like as big as it could get when we went to Ohio. When I went to Alabama, I actually had to tug it snug. And it was like, I'm sitting in an air, and that was only about 40 pounds down. And I was still like, that can't be real. Maybe they gave me an extension seatbelt or something. It was like those types of things. And even getting into the stalls, where before I would go in the bathroom, I would go find the larger stall because it was like more room. You never knew if you got into the regular size one where you're going to have room to turn around and all of that. So now it's like, I don't really have to do that anymore. I mean, it's kind of weird, but these are things that people don't think about.
Yeah,
even at, restaurants, sitting at restaurants before, it was like uncomfortable, and you're embarrassed because your stomach is like touching the table, and it's like hanging, right? And now I've had to actually move tables closer because I have dino arms and I can't reach. So it's those things that you don't think about, that when you sit down after months and you're like, wait a minute, I can walk into a store and go into the changing rooms, and I don't feel bad when I go shopping anymore, whereas before I would get depressed when I would go shopping because I could never find anything, or when I look at the size, it was like, I can't believe I'm in a 2X now. And
the clothes are more expensive too, the bigger size clothes. If you get into, they label 14 as being, a bigger woman's clothes, but from 14 and up, it's more expensive because I guess because they have to make more fabric for that shirt or whatever. And then, you know, your smaller friends, they can find a shirt for $5 where you have to pay $25 if you want that same shirt.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So where do you go when you have to buy clothing and you've got you're in the obese category? Where do you have, because that's different. I mean, you know, can you get clothing at like Lane Bryant?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kohl's.
Yeah. Walmart has plus size clothes.
Okay.
Lane Bryant, Torrid. Me, I like to thrift clothes shop, so
Yeah,
I like thrifting. So
and that's one of the things too that I didn't think about was the clothes when I started, and then when my pants started falling off at work. I don't know if you remember, but they're like, "You need a belt." I was like, "I don't wear belts. I've always been too big to wear belts, and they're uncomfortable." And for a while, I think it was about 3 months, I had to keep going buy new pants because my pants kept falling off. And then I'm walking around work, you know, holding my pants up, teaching in front of a class, holding my, you know, jacking my pants up all the time. It's not something you think about. And a friend of mine keeps telling me, just buy maternity pants, quit messing around. And it's like, those are the things you have to think about too, is that, do you really want to, I mean, I spent about $20 for a pair of jeans, because I just buy cheap jeans because I know I'm going to outgrow, you know, I'm going to be too, you know, lose too much weight, and I'm going to lose more weight and lose more weight, and that's what keeps happening.
You know, it's definitely something that people who aren't overweight, right? Some people who are thinner, and then even people who just have a little bit more to love, right? So people who will be like, you know, like they'll call themselves fat, don't understand is that you could potentially not fit in when you go to sit down and eat at the restaurant, that you might have to ask for 2 chairs. You know, I mean, I've had people, I worked in the restaurant industry before I was in, you know, fitness and things like that. And I remember having people kind of call in and be like, do you have 2 chairs that I can sit on? You know, and that's hard, you know, it's hard to like admit that or ask for that. It's, you know, I can imagine that it's almost embarrassing, like to get to the place where, you know, you can't ride the ride because you don't fit in the chair comfortably. And like, it must feel victorious almost to be able to do that now, right?
it was. I was literally, I was about to cry, and then it started raining. I'm like, run it. And then I came all the way from Texas to get into this ride. I'm gonna ride it.
Oh, you went there just for that?
Yeah, we went
Six
there.
Flags or something, or
No,
Disneyland,
It
or
was this place called Fun Spot USA in Kissimmee, Florida.
okay, yeah.
And it's kind of like a carnival type place, but it's really fun. It's outside of in Kissimmee, and I went there with my ladies group. We go on a trip every year for a week, and so we chose that place. And I went there, and I was like, I'm getting on that ride, and I did. And like I said, they were clapping. I was like this, yay, I could get on this ride. And I realized what I had accomplished. So it was amazing.
Awesome. Ladies, now that we're talking a little bit about, you know, the success and the freedom that you're kind of starting to experience and the positive feelings you're having from losing that weight, I think what we'd like to know is, what were you doing leading up to having your surgery? What was going on with you? You know, had you tried other methods to lose weight?
I did. I've tried numerous things. I've tried, first I tried phentermine. It's a diet pill. You can get a prescription from your doctor, and I took that, but it caused issues with my heart where it was racing, and I couldn't stay on it anymore. I did lose weight, but there is a side effect to it with heart issues, and I didn't want to damage my heart trying to lose weight. I tried Herbalife, USANA, Weight Watchers, fasting, the water diet, the military diet. I've tried going to a nutritionist. I've done a bunch of things, and this was the only thing that really worked. This was a last resort for me.
Yeah, and so, like, you know, we had previously talked a little bit. Why do you feel that those diets didn't work for you?
There were numerous reasons why. One, I don't think I was in the right headspace to lose weight. Like I talked to you about before, I was an emotional eater, and any issue in my life, whether I was happy, celebrating, if I was sad, depressed, I ate. And then there were other attributes in my life that contributed to it as well, like going through a divorce or going through a rough marriage, or, you know, your mother being sick. My mom was sick for a long time, and me dealing with that, I just ate my problems away. I guess you can say that. Just try to cope with it with food. And then I didn't have a really good support system at the beginning of me trying to lose weight. So that kind of contributed to that as well.
So, you know, would you say, and we didn't talk about this beforehand, but did you have like binge eating episodes?
Yeah, I would starve myself throughout the day, and then at night I would like go for it. I would get anything. I used to, my mom, she was a big person before, and I started seeing the things that she used to do that I was doing. I would restaurant hop. I would go get tacos from Taco Bell, then go to McDonald's, get fries, then go to Wendy's to get a burger, and then eat all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I did that. Like, I would try to like count my calories, and then I'm like, okay, it's cheat day, and then I'm just going for it. Like, we're going to the buffet. I have biscuits for breakfast, biscuits for lunch, biscuits for dinner.
Yeah.
Because where I used to live at, that's what we had. That's what my
In the
mom,
South. Yeah, the South.
You know, there was pork. You had barbecue. You had collard greens.
Yeah.
I didn't do pig feet, but you know. But those are, yeah, I went through that because I thought, you know, well, I didn't eat throughout the day. You know, if I eat this, it's not that many calories, but I didn't take into account of servings, you know, and all those things too. So
Yeah, and like you know, that being said, you know, I'd like to kind of like point out something real quick about like binge eating, because binge eating is considered an eating disorder. It's not, you know, just like the person just simply wants to eat another helping of food. It's they feel like they can't not eat it. Right? It's this feeling, this overwhelming feeling, and it's usually accompanied by a lot of guilt. And you know, it's also accompanied by like episodes of like not eating. So sometimes somebody who binge eats, and you know, I don't want to say that this was your case, and I'm not a therapist. This is just based on like stuff I've read. When I was in college, I read up a little bit on like eating disorders. I wrote papers on it, and as a trainer, I've read up on it, so I can know what's going on with people. And from what I understand, like a lot of times people who deal with binge eating also deal with other aspects of like eating disorders. So it's like they'll not eat for like 2 days or something, and then they'll binge eat, and they'll eat 3 times what they would have eaten over the case of those days. It's this really kind of like, you know, like ugly kind of cycle that hops into somebody's life. And you know, I mean, it must have been really tough dealing with that.
And then I got depressed afterwards, because then I felt bad, because I'm like, you're supposed to be losing weight, you know, why did you do that? And then I would beat myself up about it, and then I would do it again, and
yeah,
so I had to get a handle on that.
Yeah, and so you know, you had told me that was like the first step for you, is that you went through some kind of counseling or something to resolve that or to work on that.
Yes, I did. I was going to have the weight loss surgery prior to my surgery that I had in 2016, and the first time I went, the surgeon there, he recommended that I seek counseling, because if you don't deal with those issues where you're, you know, like have issues with eating, then you having the surgery, you're going to repeat the cycle all over again, and you're going to gain the weight back. You're not going to learn from it if you continue to keep doing the same issues that you had problems with. Like if you get mad or upset, you eat. So I went to counseling, and it really helped me. And when I didn't go through the surgery then, but then I did it in 2016, I had to go through counseling again. And he made it's mandatory with the surgeon that I went to, that you have to have at least 4 to 5 sessions with a licensed therapist.
Really? So it almost sounds like you had a doctor who's a little bit more holistic.
Yeah. With my surgeon, Dr. Schraps, I had to see a nutritionist. I had to see a therapist. Yeah, I had to do those two things in order to even qualify for him to even put me in the program to have the surgery.
So your doctor wasn't just trying to make a buck off of you,
No.
which is sometimes, I think, maybe the perception that people have on things like any kind of cosmetic surgery or things like that, because there probably are people who are like that, but that wasn't your experience. What about for you? What were you doing? Did you want to comment on that before I ask you?
Yeah, because a lot of people do think that and the whole mine was done through the insurance company, and insurance companies require that. A lot of people think, that they just don't want to spend the money, the insurance companies, but really the requirements that they set up for you to have the prerequisites for the surgery are important. I had to take a psychological evaluation. I had to have, I believe it was either 4 or 5 nutritionist visits, and they wouldn't do the surgery until 4 months after I had decided to do it. And I had to, I did have to meet a BMI, and I had to have what's called a comorbid condition, a condition that would possibly be healed if I lost the weight. So that's another preconceived notion, is that insurance won't pay for it because they don't believe in it, and that's not true. And you have to jump through these hoops, but you have to be. It's better for you. Going to the first nutritionist visit, it was like, oh, that's ketogenic diet. I got this. I can do that. And so it's one of those things that people don't think about. That it is. You have to look at things holistically. And I went to the BMI Institute here in San Antonio, and they still were on support groups. They have the walks every week, different things. You can go in and learn how to cook, and it's supportive. If we have questions, or at the beginning of the surgery, they didn't want to answer any medical issues online or anything like that. But if you had, hey, I found this mayonnaise and it has no soy in it, and you post it to everybody, and they give you their opinions, because there's a lot of things that we can't eat now, that it helps to have that support group, that network of other people going through the same thing.
You said something that I never, comorbid. Can you tell us and clarify for that, for me, and also for my viewers?
A comorbid condition means that it's some sort of diagnosis, a medical condition that is, in this case, it's something that would be alleviated. Apnea. Apnea would be a comorbid condition. Type 2 diabetes is a comorbid condition. Mm-hmm. Those are different medical conditions that are adversely affected or could be bettered by losing weight. So there's something that will change. So a lot of people that have, a lot of our type 2 diabetics here in San Antonio have it due to weight. And once you lose the weight, you become non-dependent on any of the pills or the insulin or anything like that. Your diet and exercise will keep you in line, or even it may be gone. Apnea, sleep apnea, a lot of times has to do with weight. That's when you can't breathe when you're sleeping. You stop breathing. And when you lose the weight, it doesn't happen anymore. That was what mine was. I had sleep apnea, and I stopped snoring. I breathe fine at night. I actually sleep through the night without a problem now. So.
Yeah, for our viewers at home or listeners on the podcast, sleep apnea is really very scary, because to me, I used to be in a band and I toured, and I remember that we stayed at someone's house, and this is the first time I ever had heard of it. I didn't know what it was. The person who was there was obese, and I remember we all were sleeping in the same room, laying on the bed, and this person sounded almost like they were gasping or choking, right? This like in the middle of the night, and he would do it over and over and over again, and it's like, whoa, and then later on somebody told me he has sleep apnea. It's it's almost like, it almost sounds like you're drowning, but you're out of you're not underwater. Right. It's almost like the sound of it. And
they have to put you on a pressure machine. It's the apnea machine, and the CPAP machine, that it pressurizes it and forces the air into you. And when they told me that, you're gonna need to get one of those, I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm gonna lose this weight. I'm not getting, because that to me was like, that was that threshold that I never wanted to pass.
Yeah, you become dependent on a device just to be alive. That's kind of
I
scary.
already have one of those. I have to wear an insulin pump, so I didn't want it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, I understand. So, what had you tried prior to doing the plan? And what was your story kind of leading up to you not doing the plan, but going with the surgery?
Well, leading up to it, I had actually had the binging and purging. I was someone that, not so much purging, but I would binge. And I would go to one extreme where I was counting, 400 calories a day. I was like, okay, I can have lettuce, I can have celery, I can have, 2 ounces of chicken, I can have the little packet of tuna, and that's it. No crackers, and I could tell you the number of calories in different meals at different places. I knew I could go to Jack in the Box and get grilled chicken and the rice and eat half of it and only have about 400 calories for that meal. And I knew all of these things. That's how bad I had gotten. And I lost a ton of weight. And then, at that time, I couldn't control things that were going on in my life, so I controlled what I put in my mouth. And then afterwards,
What time was this in your life? How old were you?
It was about 10 years ago, so I was 31, 32.
Okay.
And it also was a lot of the people that I hung out with, it was like, they were the same way. They were like, we're going to count these, and we did. We counted them together. I was just the most extreme. And then I met my husband, and I started, I was happy with life, and, I was still healthy for a while, and, eating, but then I just got lazy. That was what I was. I became lazy. And then, I got up to like 180 or 190, 195. I was like, well, I'm going to start doing Weight Watchers. And I gave up on Weight Watchers. I was like, oh, it's not going fast enough. And then I went to phenermine, and it was like, oh, this is great. And I lasted about 2.5 months, and then I couldn't take it because it made my heart feel bad. So I did the shakes, and I did the, only eating salad during the week and having the cheat days. I think the cheat days is the worst thing anybody could ever say on a lot of that, is a cheat day does not do you any good. And it never did for me, because I did the exact same thing. On my cheat day, I would, let's go get a Big Mac and the fries. Yeah, I want it supersized. Let me get an apple pie with that, because it's my cheat day. I'll make it up tomorrow. And I didn't. And all of that work that you would put in during the week, it just goes away. I did exercise regimes. I had a personal trainer, and then I got hurt, and it just led up to this and led up to this, and it wasn't me. The first time I went to have my surgery or talk to someone about it, I knew I wasn't ready, because when they told me I couldn't have soda anymore, I was like, I'm good, bye. And I left, because I wasn't going to give up my soda. So
this was for the surgery, or this was just for
the surgery?
Okay, the surgery.
The first time, because I drank diet soda all the time. I mean, I had a serious diet Dr. Pepper habit. It was like serious. And so when they told me I couldn't have soda anymore, the first time I went to see a BMI doctor, I didn't want to give that up. So I knew I wasn't ready. And I was like, but then I kept gaining the weight. And I did ketogenics, which helped. I lost weight. But again, I knew I needed something to keep me from eating. And that's all this surgery is. It's a tool. It's not the end of the world. It's not this magic pill that's going to fix me. It's a tool. You still have to change your habits. You still have to learn. I mean, and I have my days where, the last 2 months, I'm not going to lie, I've been eating quesadillas and breakfast tacos. On Fridays, I have breakfast taco Fridays. And, I still have problems. But with the sleeve, I can't eat. I can't overeat. So at the beginning, when I did overeat and I would overdo it, it hurt. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Pavlov's dog. It hurts. And after a while, I quit doing it. So now I notice that I start getting to the point, and I look at what I've eaten already, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I'll close it or put it away, because I don't want that pain. And another one of the side effects, and I know it's, I call it the pop top. Once we eat too much, food comes out. And it's not like with force or velocity or anything like that. It just slides out of your body. It sounds kind of gross, but it's not throwing
in
up.
your mouth or
out of your
esophagus?
Mouth. It just comes. It's full of phlegm, and your stomach. I don't know why. I don't know the medical reason why, but once it gets to that point in your stomach can't take anymore, because with the gastric sleeve, you don't have the elasticity of the regular stomach. It's the top portion of where the esophagus meets the stomach. That's all that we have left.
Wow.
We don't have the stomach that would expand on someone without the surgery. Their stomach expands because it's very elastic.
Yeah.
But the top part doesn't. There's no movement there. So there's the caloric sphincters, the ending parts on either end, this is still closed going to your intestines, where the other one is still, and
backed
it
up.
comes out. It pops that top.
It's like plumbing, like when plumbing gets backed up with something. Yeah.
And at the beginning, I would have to run to the bathroom, real quickly, and my kids, Mom, are you purging again? I mean, it becomes a joke, but it's I'm like, yeah, I ate too much. And people notice.
So when you say purging, are you referring to like eating disorder wise, or?
It's no, it's your body's purging it. Your body is like, it can't physically take anymore, so
That's
it
the term that
purges
they use?
it. Well, I don't think they do. That's the one we use it, because that's the thing so people know that you're not sick. It's not that I'm sick and throwing up. It's that I ate too much. And now I can see myself when I start eating too much, and I'm like, that hurts. So I don't do it. And that's, I think, is one of the other misconceptions, is that it is a tool. We didn't do this because we knew it was going to solve everything for us. It's one of the tools, along with the diet, along with getting up and actually being able to move, along with talking to people with the support and things like that. It's one of those things. It's the same thing. Phentermine is not a be all end all either. You have to, with phentermine, you have to take your diet seriously. So it's that's one of the things people I don't think understand.
Ladies, now something that's really important is discussing the different kinds of options that you do have for weight loss. Before I go into that, I just kind of want to mention that one of the reasons why I chose to have you all on here is for perspective. A lot of times when people look at people who go through weight loss surgery, they don't completely understand. They think like, why don't they just stop eating? They don't understand that there's like all this, sometimes there's psychological things that go about, there's addiction, there's this addictive side of things, and just the fact that your body changes so much when you get qualified as being obese, that it can be very genetically difficult for you to lose that weight easily. It's not the same thing as having a little bit more to love, and wanting to lose weight. It's not the same thing when you're obese to being like a size, 16 and being upset about that. It's a much different challenge that is both emotional, psychological, and physical. And so, that's why I have you on here, because I want to kind of address that and recognize the fact that losing that amount of weight is very, very difficult. And so, that being said, I think what is unclear to most people is what the hell is up with all the surgeries? What are all the different options that you have for weight loss surgeries? And can we start with Lisa? Lisa, can you tell us, first of all, can you tell us what surgery you had?
I had the gastric sleeve.
Okay, all right. And so what does that mean?
Basically, they remove, I think it's about 85% of your stomach. And it's kind of, they say it's kind of like shaped like a banana in a way. But as Shawn said earlier, it's, how can I put it?
It's okay.
They remove certain parts of your stomach. So it's not, you don't have the elasticity of your stomach. It's a lot more restriction. When you eat, as far as being full, you don't have that sensation like you used to have when you eat. So that's part of the gastric sleeve surgery.
So you have less of a desire to eat? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's the part where your body tells you that you're full. You don't have that sensation anymore once you have the gastric sleeve. Yeah, and hunger.
So you don't have as much hunger. Your appetite isn't as high. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then, maybe Shawn, could you tell us a little bit about because earlier, when we were off camera, you were telling me a little bit about like another follow-up surgery that you can have when you have that.
When you go in, your doctors usually will ask you, which one do you want? Here, let's explain them. You have your first one. It's the one that can be reversed. It's the band, the gastric band, which is basically they take a band and your stomach and they wrap it around your stomach and then they tighten it so that it makes a very small closure. And then your stomach ends up being about this big. It's reversible. It just helps you lose the weight and then you can eat normally later on. I didn't want that because I heard all the bad things, food gets stuck and that you have to go in constantly and have it reinflated and adjustment, the erosion, no. The next one is the gastric sleeve where they remove, basically your stomach's shaped like this and they remove the circular part at the bottom and you're left with the tube, is what your stomach is now. That's more invasive than the band, but less invasive of the third one that is commonly, which most people knew about in the past, is the actual true bypass, where they take your esophagus and they move it to where your intestines are, and they connect them there. They are basically bypassing the stomach completely, and it's gone. And
wow.
It is, your esophagus is now your stomach, and it has its pros about you're gonna not have the GERD and you won't, because they've removed all the stomach acids, but your restrictions to your eating are much more. I mean, you can't have the sugars because then you end up with what's called dumping syndrome. If you eat sugar or high carbs, you end up basically within 20 minutes you need to be in the bathroom because it's coming and you can't stop. It's like people that have gastric, I think it's gastric phoresis, the gastric issues where they have a lot of those problems. So
it's called dumping?
Yeah, dumping.
So, okay, so those are the major surgeries, right? And then
there's
you want to pass it over?
Dual switch.
Okay, what's that?
Where you have the bypass, well, you have the sleeve first. After you have the sleeve, then they revert it to the gastric bypass. Then they have the balloon, where they can it's the same day outpatient surgery, I guess you can call it, and they inflate a balloon in your stomach to help you to do the restriction part to help you lose weight. They can put one or two, depending on how much weight you need to lose. And then they have another one.
There's that new pill now that they...
Yeah, they have a pill that they insert into your stomach that's supposed to help you lose weight. So it's different things. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it expands as well.
What does it do? Do you know a little bit about it?
No, I don't know much about it because it was.
It's new.
It's
brand new.
It's really
yeah.
new.
Yeah.
I saw it in the BMI office, and I was like, yeah. To me, it was the same thing as the gastric band, where it's not permanent, and I was looking for something that was permanent but not so invasive as the gastric true bypass, because I didn't. To me, the side effects of it were more than what the gastric sleeve was. So
I also wanted to clarify something with the dual switch. The dual switch is you start off at the sleeve, and then I think they remove more of the intestines with the dual switch. So it's like, your esophagus is running to your small intestine. It's like they remove more of your intestines for it, and with that one you will lose weight, but the side effects are you will be like, once you eat, you're gonna have to go to the restroom.
Yeah, because you have less distance.
Yeah.
The small intestine's like 20. It's really long, isn't it? It's like 16 feet or something. I should know this. I used to know how far it was because I used to work at the Whitty Museum and I did a demo and I taught kids about your intestines. I cannot remember, but no, it's really long. So it makes sense to me that you would have to dump like really quickly. Did you have something you wanted to say?
yeah, and
Shawn?
it is going to make you lose weight quicker than, of course, the gastric sleeve was. But it also gets you into this gaunt phase where I know that if you lose the weight too quick, you're going to have where your muscles begin to atrophy. Your muscles are going to begin to deteriorate also. You're going to lose muscle mass and the weight. And when I thought about it and I was looking at it, I didn't want that. I mean, I already have to take now, a gazillion vitamins a day, which at first I did, and I was like, I'll be fine. And then that hit me that I was always just very lethargic and
tired.
But the gastric bypass to me was something that, and I guess because my BMI also wasn't as high as some that is more dramatic and necessary when you have the BMIs that are closer to 60, 65, you're talking, 500-600 pounds. The gastric bypass is where those are definite that are going to be a quicker and a more sustainable loss.
Yeah, that is, it's interesting because, I didn't even know that there was that kind of nuance, but it completely makes sense because people who undergo like rapid fat loss, let's say they do some kind of crash diet, which is similar to the diets that you were talking about like earlier, losing like 5-6 pounds a week, things like that. You do, like, even if you're not doing a surgery or something like that, you lose your mass. And while on the surface it might seem like I just want to get the weight off, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass because your energy is going to be low, your hormones are going to get kind of a little bit messed up for a while. You're not going to feel very good, and you're going to feel lethargic, tired. It can lead to all sorts of problems, and that's where you get the emaciated look. So some people who undergo like weight loss end up. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes. There's people that I know that had the surgery, and I could tell that they had it, even though they weren't open about it. But they have that. Their face have sunken in, and then I know that they're not following what the doctor told them. Like, you have to take vitamins, and you have to eat protein. Those things are going to help you, with your energy, keep your body, your iron level up. I take B12, I take multivitamin, I take biotin, I take iron pills, just so that I don't have, I'm healthy with the weight loss. I don't want to lose weight and then look unhealthy.
Yes.
So, and then it comes with, even with the surgery, you have malabsorption. You don't absorb a lot of nutrients because you had this surgery. So you have to make sure you're eating enough to get your daily vitamins, like your daily, protein or B12 or your, calcium and all those things. You have to have that because you lose the weight, but then you lose the muscle. And then if you don't have calcium or vitamin D, your bones become brittle. I mean, you start going into a whole nother medical issue.
Yeah, osteoporosis or just fatigue, chronic fatigue, tiredness.
It can be painful too.
Yes.
I mean, when you have that lowered vitamin D and because I take D, C, B12, my multivitamin. There's one other one, I can't think of it right now. But I have to take all those vitamins, and we're not talking about I can go and get. I take the Ollie ones, and I take, the bottle says take 2. No, we have to take 4. They actually have special bariatric bariatric vitamins that when you read them, they're 3 times the regular vitamins that you take, because where most people will absorb the food, we're not taking in as much. I've gone from, a plate of food where I can get a kid's meal, Cane's kids meal. You get a piece of bread, a small fry, and 1 chicken strip. And I can eat 1 chicken strip and some of the fries. And then I'm super full. Well, potatoes, I'm not getting, the nice and all this stuff in it because I'm not eating a full serving. You're not eating a full serving of anything. Where, if you think about it, your daily serving of your nutrition is supposed to come from your food for the most part. And the other things are just supplementing that. We're having to supplement, 3 times that because of we're not getting it through food anymore.
Yeah, so it's almost like supplementation is more like actual nutrition for you versus like just the standard idea of it just supplementing what you're doing. It's like necessary for
Right.
you. Yeah.
And the things that people don't understand, I mean, to kind of
Yeah.
is that without that, and people would always say, oh, you're going to lose your hair, your nails are going to become brittle. I did not understand the magnitude of losing my hair. To the point that I was pulling chunks of hair out everywhere I go. There's like hair everywhere.
Is this still the case for you right now?
It's a lot better, but I had to change my whole shampoo regimen, my hair care, everything. It went from, regular hair loss to the point of there's so much more. I increased my vitamin intake and all of that it's going to happen. The elasticity of your skin, people don't think about that either, is that it's going to be droopy. And although you look great on the outside, with the clothes on, you still stand in the mirror and you're like, oh, my skin's and it's not as elastic as it was before. So you have to do the vitamin E. What's another one? Nails. Your nails are super brittle. And my nails, it'll be nothing and they just break.
Still to this day right now.
Right. And
So,
I...
not the same?
Yours had 2 years, right?
Yeah. For me, when I kind of had the opposite effect with the hair. My hair started to grow. Like before, my hair would not grow. Like I wear a weave, and I'm not ashamed of that. I don't like doing my own hair. So, but my hair is actually the length of this, actually a little longer. It's just, I don't want to do it. But before, my hair would barely grow, and it would be like that much long. But after the surgery, because I increased my protein, and I biotin helps. I shampoo my hair in biotin. I had to change all my shampoos because some of that was stripping nutrients from my hair. But I had to change that part, but my hair started to grow. My nails got better because before my nails would break easily. They'll split. It's just different things would happen. And then now after the surgery, it's a lot better. So
yeah, it sounds like you were malnourished when you were overweight or when you were obese. Yeah, because that can be really common too. Is there's the myth that if you're overweight, you can't be anemic or you can't struggle with. But if you're eating like what you were eating before, which is strictly fast food, your body might have was missing out on certain nutrients, especially after that surgery. So what we're kind of talking about right now, and we're segueing into, is the cons of having the surgery. Any kind of surgery. Are there any other cons to having the surgery that you had? Anything that you want to say, and then we'll move into pros.
Another con that people don't really think about. Okay, your goal is to lose weight. You lose the weight, but you have to be ready to know that you're going to have loose skin. Some people, they don't take that into effect. I'm losing weight, I'm going to lose it. Yeah, but you have to be prepared for that. And there's this doctor on Instagram, Dr. V or someone, he was like, you have to look at your loose skin as a victory because you know where you came from, and now this is your badge of honor that you lost the weight, that you're getting healthy. But there's going to be loose skin. And I'm okay with it. I don't have a problem with it. Some people, it gets really bad because if you're really extremely obese, you're 500 pounds and you get down to 200, you're going to have a lot of loose skin. And then some insurance will pay to have the skin removed because you come into there's skin issues after that. You'll have sores, you'll get infections or different issues will come up. So you have to get that extra skin removed. But when you begin to start losing weight, that's when you have to start working out to keep toned.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, I did it backwards. I lost the weight and then started working out.
Yes, that's when you reach out to me.
So then I have a lot of loose skin on my arms, and around my midsection. So it's best that once you start transition to losing weight, you start some type of workout. Even if you're sitting on the couch and lifting, a dumbbell or something, just do something to help, keep you toned for when you start losing weight and then you have loose skin. So, yeah.
Okay, so yes, that's something that, I guess some people don't even realize. What's another con that you'd like to share? Or have we kind of covered all of them? Did you want to share one, Shawn?
I think one of the bigger ones is not taking in consideration how much it's going to change your psyche also. I mean, we always talk about physical and things like that. Your psyche is something that when you're spend so much time being invisible, and then all of a sudden, people pay attention, that kind of messes with your head a little bit. It also, in your relationships, if you're not sure about people around you, if they're very negative about it. I mean, I was like, my husband and my children, they were very, very positive. But I know some people that when they did it at the end, afterwards, the changes that they made for this positive change ended up costing them relationships because the other person couldn't handle how this was changing them. So
Yeah.
It's something that you have to take in consideration. Another thing is I wasn't expecting, because again, I'm type 1 diabetic. I wasn't expecting a lot of the diet issues to change. I knew I was going to need less insulin, but it ended up causing a lot more of the problems with being hospitalized, and I went way too overboard. So it was like, I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to lose all this weight, and I'm going to stop eating, and I fell into old habits by being so restrictive because I was not going to let this fail. I didn't want to be one of those people that, because you can stretch your stomach back out. You can with, over the course of 3 or 4 years, if you continue your eating habits afterwards and start eating full plates again, you're going to stretch. I mean, it's still tissue. It's still that tissue that it's just not as elastic, and it's painful, but people can do that. And I have vowed that I'm not going to be that person. So I became restrictive, and I was eating not enough carbs to sustain my need with my insulin balance and things like that. So you really have to keep in touch with your doctors and things.
Yeah, it's something that people don't take into consideration is the relationships. Anytime that you make and I'm glad that you brought it up, anytime that you make a lifestyle change, that could be a change in your career, it could be, starting to do fitness, it could be anything. Your relationships, change, and it really shows who is closest to you and who's the most willing to listen to you and listen to your own personal goals, and who's not. It shows up really quickly. That's definitely something, like, we have a weight loss group here, and something that we pre-warn people, even just like the simple task of like being like, hey, I want to start working out, sometimes makes you or alienates you from people who aren't interested in working out. It's those changes that kind of happen, whether it's a criticism, whether it's dealing with somebody who's being a hater about your life. Oftentimes it's just, either somebody's own personal insecurity or somebody's inability to listen to you. And I'd say that it's probably a little bit of both of those. Along with some of the cons, we're flipping this, we're going with cons and we're going with pros. Something that really stuck out to me when myself and the ladies were here earlier before the interview talking was that you could potentially risk your life. So you could potentially die if, I guess, the follow-up to the surgery isn't done correctly. So, Lisa, did you want to share that with us? A little bit about what that means, why that would happen?
First, every surgery has its risk. When you sign the consent forms, they tell you that there's a possibility something can happen, that you can potentially die, and that's with any surgery. But the risk becomes greater after surgery is when, if people don't follow what the doctor have told them about, whether you have lap band or gastric sleeve or bypass or any of those surgeries, it can potentially cause harm to your body that it can be fatal. my coworkers I worked with before at a previous job, she had a friend that lost her life to it because she didn't listen. She drank alcohol a lot. She continued to have those bad habits of eating anything, and you can't just eat anything and eat so much of it. And she didn't follow up on care. She just, oh, I got it, and then she passed away.
So this is a friend of yours who had this
It was a friend
experience?
of my coworkers.
Yeah.
She's actually just lost two friends, but they had the lap band. With the lap band, there's a lot of risk with that because
Yeah.
there's slippage, there's damage to the stomach that can happen, erosion, all those different things. You become septic, and those issues. I mean, there's issues with gastric sleeve because, when they do the surgery, there could be potential leakage, but, they check for that, after surgery. They make sure there's no leakage or anything.
So as in leakage, you mean like food draining into other parts of your body that it shouldn't? Is that what you mean?
Gastric leakage.
Oh, okay, like the juices that are inside of your stomach. Okay.
So there's potential risk with it. So that's why they need to know a thorough history, any medical issues that you have, those types of things. And it's really important to follow. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I didn't do everything to the T of what he told me because, realistically, we're adults,
Yeah.
I'm going to have my biscuit, but I'm not going to do anything that would jeopardize my life. And you have to keep that in mind. You have to take your vitamins. You have to be on top of those things because you don't want to, things get out of whack and lead to other medical issues that could potentially become fatal. So.
Yeah, that's really tough to hear. I did not realize. I mean, I recognize that with like any surgery you can have that, but I didn't know that could potentially be that bad. That could cause, it could be a life or death situation. So, the next thing that I wanted to touch base on was we were discussing a little bit about doctors. So, in the media, we hear like, there are good doctors, there are bad doctors, things like that. What would you ladies like to share about that? What should people know about that topic?
I would say you should do your research on your surgeon. Don't just pick any person. I mean, I thoroughly checked my surgeon. I want to see if he had any malpractice issues. Has anyone died? Does he follow with his patients? I read reviews. How many surgeries have you done? Those types of things. How long has he been a surgeon? Those type of things. Because when you start, it's your life. And you want to make sure that you protect your life, and you don't want just anybody doing surgery. Those people who go out of the country to have surgeries, there are some good doctors, but you have to be very careful with that because some people have surgeries. I've seen it in my group online that they went out of country, and then when they came back, they were rushed to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
They were given medication they shouldn't had. They were bleeding. They just had the surgery and put them on a plane. You have to really know that this person has your best interests at heart. They're not just trying to make a buck. So you have to thoroughly search and research your surgeon.
And I think another part of it too is that if you feel uncomfortable about what they're asking you, because like I had mentioned before, there's comorbid conditions and things that have to be met for the insurance. The other thing about the first place that I had gone to was they were trying to make me fit into them. I didn't quite fit the BMI, and I had type 1 diabetes, like I had said, but they're pushing, well, have you ever had acid reflux? And, well, no, maybe when I was pregnant or something. Oh, if you've ever had it, you'll qualify. And coming from my background, I know that you can't. There are people that doctor's offices that kind of fudge the details to make the medical records meet what they're supposed to get the approval, to get the money. And that also was another thing besides the soda that kind of like, I'm not going to go to somebody that's going to make me go do this other procedure. They wanted me to get what's called EGD, where they send a camera down a camera down your throat to see if there's any damage from gastric juices coming up. And I know that I didn't have heartburn. I never had heartburn. I never had any type of that acid reflux before. So that was another thing with that doctor, that I turned me off by him. But when I went to the where I did go to the BMI what I went to, they had that whole thing. They had a diabetic educator. They had nutritionist, and they didn't have just a nutritionist that's in the office and sits there, you know, behind their little glass door and hands out pamphlets. They had a nutritionist that if I had a question, I could message her on Facebook and say, hey, I want to eat this, what do you think? And she would contact you back. It wasn't something that she was behind, you know, bunches of front desk people at the clinic that wouldn't talk to you. They would get involved. When they had the classes, she would bring out these books and like, look, check out this is the recipes that are great. This is where you can use other things. So it's somewhere that you feel comfortable too. And I didn't feel like just a number. And when I wanted to talk to the doctor, if I had a question, well, they've answered questions for us, where they've gone on and answered questions in the group. And it's phenomenal. And that's, you want something like that. You don't want something where, okay, thanks, we'll see you in 6 months. Okay, well, you know, we got your money.
So you want somebody who's like actually there for you, and a medical practitioner who really actually cares. And it sounds like, you know, you had a good one, like almost right from the get-go, and it sounds like you had a little bit of a scare, but you had that insight to not go with that person. So someone, if you go in somewhere and you feel like you're being sold something instead of being encouraged to take care of your health, you know, that should be a big red flag. You know, it's not like going and getting your nails done or buying a pair of sunglasses. Like, we're talking about your life, you know? So
it was, when I went to that, it was like the people that call and tell you that you want a trip to the Caribbean and they want you to go visit their timeshare. That's how, that's how they, I mean, seriously, because I had called, I saw the commercial on TV about, you know, bariatric surgery, so I called them. And they, oh, well, we'll get you in. And I got the text, and I got the, here's your appointment. We have your appointment with Kimber. And it really was like that. And when
That's
I went
scary.
in there, they're like, well, we'll send you over here because you don't quite meet gastric for these reasons, but you can meet it over here. And I'm like, that's not how medical works. Either you meet the criteria and you're good to go and it'll help you, or you don't. If you don't need to go dig around in my insurance and find a different benefit that'll cover it, because that's how you can get me sold. You need to have that integrity to tell me that, you know what, you're not ready for this because your body is not at the point that it will actually do you good. Because if your minimum BMI of 35 was not a requirement, or it is a requirement, if that wasn't important enough to be there, it wouldn't be a requirement.
Yeah.
I mean, you really shouldn't get the surgery if your BMI is lower than 35, because it'll cause you to lose too much. I really was on the lower end because mine was 38. And so I was on the lower end of the BMI spectrum, but I had the comorbid, you know, the other conditions that were causing me to not lose weight. So I had the slower metabolism due to, you know, thyroid, and due to this and that and the other. So I liked food. I mean, mine was never a relation. Mine was a relationship with food. I am from the South. We love our smothered everything, and I had planned lunch at breakfast and dinner at lunch.
I understand. I know. It's the biscuits and gravy and all the fixings. So, you know, we're getting a little close to the end of our podcast. You know, I'd like to know a little bit about, like, how do you personally feel about, like, the pros of the surgery? Lisa, like, what are the pros for you of doing the surgery?
The pros for me...
We have to be a little bit quick now.
Okay.
Yeah.
The pros for me was I was no longer pre-diabetic. My health began to get better. I'm able to be more active. I've lost the weight. I can tie my shoes. I can do different things that I couldn't do before.
Yeah.
And I have more confidence now than I had before. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you do it again?
I would. It was hard at first, that first 2 weeks of not eating, only having clear liquids, but I would do it again because the benefits outweighed the cons, or the cons of it, and it was something that I needed that actually my life benefited. It saved my life in a way. So.
Yeah. So yeah, it did. Yeah, because I mean, when you're obese, it definitely would be the case.
Yeah, and I have heart issues in my family, kidney issues, diabetics, different things, and I was almost there.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, and now you're working out with us here and
yes,
getting toned. Yeah, all sorts of stuff. So it's really cool. All right, and then for you, Shawn, what are the pros for you?
The pros are definitely that I feel better. I feel so much better about myself, and I can look at my kids and know that I'll be there. My grandbabies, I'm there with them, and I know that I can do more now. I'm actually, out walking and doing exercises with my husband and things that keep me active. I can bend over and tie my shoes. I'm not losing my breath just walking up my stairs.
Yeah.
I mean, and I knew I needed the change, and this surgery was something that was going to help me because I was having a hard time sticking with restrictive diets because of how restrictive they were, where now I have to do it, but I can still kind of color outside the lines a little bit. So, and I would do it over again, and I would recommend anybody that's considering it, talk to your family. I would definitely say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For our viewers at home, with someone having this kind of surgery, what I want to urge you to realize is that this is a big decision for them to go under the knife and to have something changed in them. It's not just, this quick fix. There's so much follow-up that you have to do, and so much that you really need to take into consideration when you're working with the right doctor, when you're working with the right doctor to make sure that you're staying healthy. And, not everybody can lose weight in a traditional way. Not everybody has that path. And, I would say that we're lucky to live in a time right now, or that where we do have that as being an option for fixing this problem, then it can arise in some people's life. Obesity is something that's on the rise in America, and for some people it just seems like it's outside of that person's reach, whether it's emotionally, physically, or genetically. I don't think I'm going to be able to lose 400 pounds very easily. And in those cases, people who are obese like that stand to have a better chance if they go about having the surgery. At least that's based on what I'm hearing from these ladies and what I've done, my own personal research. I'm going to post a link in the description for this video from a podcast that Ira Glass did. From This American Life, where he talks about this, obesity thing. And, just to kind of let you all know that it's not just a matter of just stop eating the pizza and the cheeseburgers. It's a matter of your whole life, how you feel, and whether or not your body's even going to let you lose that weight effectively. It's much more challenging than anybody could ever imagine. So thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today. Yeah, thank you. And ladies, I am just going to really quick ask you a few rapid fire questions. This is just something that we do that's kind of fun at the end of each episode of our podcast. Just like for people to kind of get to know you. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you a question. Maybe you can pass it back and forth, and I'm just going to make up questions. Is it okay if they're food related? Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. Okay, all right, cool. All right, so what is your favorite carb? Go. It can be healthy or unhealthy. Doesn't have to be.
Oh, no, it's actually, it's the tiramisu cake from H-E-B is the most absolute favorite because it's got sugar, it has that coffee flavor. Yeah.
I'm
going to have to try it out. I like tiramisu. All right, go.
For me, they don't have this restaurant here, but in North Carolina they have Bojangles, and I love their cheddar bow biscuits.
God, Southern
so
food.
Good.
Yeah, Southern food, soul food. Yeah, soul food. Yeah. I worked at a soul food restaurant when I was younger, so yeah, so good. Okay, all right. Let's see. Favorite form of physical activity?
I think for me, I like doing squats.
Oh, you like, it's your favorite movement. Yeah, you like doing squats. Yeah, you gotten good at them. Yeah. If you don't have one, it's okay. You can just say, I don't like exercising. It can be going for a walk. It can be anything. It could be gardening. It doesn't have to be a traditional gym thing. It could be walking with your kids, going for a bike ride, walking the dog, anything.
I loved running before, but now I'm at that age where it's, and when I had gotten so big, it was not good for me. So I wish that I could run again. But walking, I guess, would be good. That's
okay. So you like going for a little walk, yeah. All right. What do you order when you go to Starbucks?
Well, as of today, the macchiato with the coconut milk and hazelnut cream, it was really good.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have to try it out.
For me, I guess it'd be, I like the caramel macchiato.
Caramel macchiato?
Yeah.
Do you get it with all the fixings, or do you go with what do you get? No, be honest. I want you to be as honest as possible.
Good, I cut something up, but no, I get it with all the fixings.
Okay, yeah. All right, ladies, this will be the end of the Total Body Training podcast. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Until next time, peace.